Okay, I'll play something more fun. Hold on one second. So for the folks that are just coming in too, while you're coming in, please share in the comments what are some songs you like to listen to, or any hymns you like to listen to that make you feel peaceful when you're stressed out, when you're anxious, when you're feeling all kinds of things. What do you tune into? What is a hymn or a song? Just drop it in the chat. Wait, do you hear that bird? Oh, I thought I heard a bird.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Indy. I just feel so centered. Some people were saying it makes me think of butterflies. So yeah, like that fluttering.
Mm.
Oh, that's beautiful, Shirley. Thank you, everyone, for logging on early. You got serenaded by our wonderful guest speaker, Indy, and it is 4 o'clock. I don't want to take any time away from this awesome guest speaker talking about resilience today. Indy, take it away. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thank you so much. And some of y'all may already know me a little bit, and some of you have experienced some of the stuff I've offered. Actually, if anybody has done anything I've done so far, please share in the comments. You know, what did you learn? What are you practicing right now? Like, what's you know did anything I share has it supported you in any way? I hope so. So, I'm really grateful. First of all, I have to first honor, our ancestors. The ancestors of this land, who have cultivated this beautiful island for us to enjoy it. And they were stewarded this land, and they took care of the water and the fire and the earth and the air, and the other, all the other, anything else that we're missing. They took care of it and they stewarded it. And so I honor all of them of this land, but I also honor all of our ancestors. I mean, I know I have mine, right? But you all have your own ancestors. So I'm really honoring them in this moment, I'm honoring them in this moment. And I hope you guys can join me in this honoring of them. And almost like a meditation, but it's like an active meditation. We're not like closing our eyes, but you could, but it's really maybe us sitting for a moment and contemplating all of our ancestors that faced challenges, that faced oppression, that faced incredible tyranny. Maybe they faced droughts. Maybe there was like ecological crises that happened, right? They weren't just like sociological ones or political ones, right? But all of our ancestors who faced those situations and were resilient, and they practice altruism, or they practice some form of resilience, right? Maybe the resilience was understanding nature and moving to a place where they could grow food, or working with the animals so they can kind of create sustenance over a period of time. I don't know. There's so many different permutations. I just hope you all, and all of us, with all the stuff that's happening in the world, for us to bring in and call upon our ancestors and their resilience and their experience of resilience that's within us. It's literally in our DNA. It's epigenetic. Anybody in the chat, drop it in the chat. What is epigenetics? Okay. Or what is your perspective on epigenetics? Or if you wanted to hop on the microphone, anybody want to hop on real quick? What's epigenetics? Anybody got the courage? Pressure. The teacher is going to grade you. You better watch out. If you don't say the right thing, I'm going to do a huge check mark or like a huge X. Okay. Like all those game shows, right?
I will definitely be the courageous one and just say that is a new word for me. So please share more. I'd love to learn.
Epigenetics is this beautiful, it's a, I would say beautiful, but it can be toxic too, right? You know, the proving mechanism, the study that really proved it was they found that mice were passing down their stress hormones to generations of mice downstream. So mice who had never experienced stress were carrying the stress from their great grandparents and grandparents, right? Which then makes us go, whoa, we're like, so any of our ancestors that experienced trauma, it's within us genetically. It's literally affecting our genetic makeup. It might be creating cancers. It might be creating chronic illnesses within us. So that's the negative spin of epigenetics, right? That things are being passed on through generations that we're not even experiencing, but we're feeling the repercussions of it, right? The vibration, the echoes of those situations. The other side of it, what I'm proposing to all of you is for us to take a moment in this practice of these 30 minutes. And I'm going to kind of share some other different tools for resilience that are more embodied that you all can kind of tune in your own way. But really, it's also taking in the moment and recognizing, sure, we had ancestors that experienced trauma and we have that within us. But we also have way more ancestors that were resilient because that's why we're here. You know, we're alive and we're here and we're breathing and we're eating and we're in community and we can develop more community, right? And be in more altruism with each other. However, we have to tune in sometimes with the beneficial epigenetics, not just the negative affecting ones, right? Those are, we're tuning into those all the time. Did you guys know that over 60% of our baseline, 60% of our baseline thinking is negative? Over 60%. It's not under. Naturally, just it's always higher than average because we come from being out in having to deal with weather anomalies, animal anomalies, sociological anomalies. So we're always checking the risk. We're always nervous about what can go wrong. We're always anxious. That's like normal baseline. Okay. So we kind of have to take extra effort and create extra effort to balance that out. Like it's not going to balance out just by being average. Like we kind of have to take extra effort to be positive with our psychology, to actually tune into our ancestral DNA that is resilient, that did practice resilience. And maybe that resilience was through gardening and farming. Maybe that resilience was through building community relationships that you're not used to, building relationship with people who maybe you don't think like, or you don't believe in the same stuff, because that creates trust. So that's also a powerful tool that our ancestors used to do. Maybe it's also about tuning into our own, the faith. I don't want to be religious here, right? But more spiritual, like faith, like actually practicing faith as much as we practice risk and doubt and concern. As that's happening 60% or more. So that means that we need to practice 60% or more of faith and hope and the practice of faith, right? Because faith is not just something, it's not just something you do out of your body. We actually have to take the steps towards embodying the faith, right? Which is kind of like gardening or kind of like farming or kind of like taking care of each other in our community, building trust, right? Or tuning into your own self, to your own voice in your head. How negative is my voice? Am I practicing a positive voice? So that's the first thing we'll do, okay? That's the first thing we'll do. I'm gonna ask all of y'all, how do we reconcile with the voice in our head? Like, maybe put it in your chat. Like, is it a concern, or what are your feelings or your thoughts about that voice in your head? Is it demonstrative? Like, does it really what does it do to you? Like, how does it affect you?
All right, friends, feel free to go ahead and put that right in the chat. My brain is going as to like, oh my gosh, how do I try to be mindful of that. And I've been trying, as it was like one of my New Year's resolutions. And it's like, what's in the present, right? Bring yourself back to in the present moment and saying, it's okay, you can do this, you can get through this, or do one more thing, or trying to think positive and not like the full scope of everything, or, like the bad thoughts or anything. And yeah, that's how I do it. Friends, feel free to unmute yourself, or Lori, Shirley, you guys want to unmute and share? They're like, not yet. So Shirley said in the chat, what comes first, a thought or a feeling? Lori, go ahead.
people who know me really well know that I like to subscribe to the four agreements, right? And try to erase all of the things that have been told to me over time and lies that I bought into. And the four agreements: always do your best, don't make assumptions, be impeccable with your word, and don't take anything personally. And so that's sort of been my mantra for a long time.
I love that. In fact, Lori, I'm gonna lovingly push back with love, just like a dance, you know, like sometimes you want to like have some resistance, right? It's a good dance. Otherwise it's not a good dance. But, you know, for example, the four agreements are wonderful, right? It's a great framework, right? And I encourage everybody to check that out and tune into that in your own way. I'm sure that social media, if you just type in four agreements, you'll find all kinds of visual tools. But I've studied neuro-linguistic programming. I was actually, one of the things when I left medical school, after I left medical school, I almost killed myself in medical school. Just to give you guys some perspective. I was a good Indian boy and I went to medical school and I was burning out. I was working way too many hours, wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't practice yoga then. I didn't eat healthy. Nobody taught us how to do that in medical school, by the way. I'm like perplexed by that, right? How we would see it. We would never go see a mechanic who has bad cars. And we would never be like, here's my car while you have terrible cars. But we always go see, we never ask a doctor if they're healthy before we ask for their support, like, or a psychologist. Are you healthy and happy before we ask for this? And also us, if you are all healers, are we also making sure we're clear so that we can support others who need healing, right? Or need guidance towards healing. So that's a whole nother conversation. But when I left medical school, I made a point to go and study different modalities of well-being. Because in medical school, it's all pathogenetic, right? Pathogenesis, right? It's all focused on pathology. And I was like, wait, we're like, Ayurveda is about exploring well-being and being resilient. Chinese medicine is about exploring well-being and being resilient. Indigenous medicines are all about exploring well-being and possibility, but we don't really explore that in Western medicine. We're always on the defense rather than being on the offense. And so one of the things I studied during that time is finding an amazing teacher. Her name is Mary Elizabeth Rains, and I studied hypnotherapy with her for about 2 years, and neuro-linguistic programming. And even as I'm coming back to four agreements, when you said, don't take things personally, like actually neuro-linguistically, we want to be careful actually saying don't to actions that we don't want to do. In fact, when we have a kid and we're like, don't touch that, don't run there, don't do that, what happens? 100% of the time almost, right? They do it, right? And we do it too. We're adult children, right? All of us, we still have a child within us. And so we hear the subconscious actions. So instead of like, don't take it personally, maybe know thyself.
Yeah.
You know? But
I completely agree. I completely agree. It's interesting you say that, because I consciously shifted one day, you know, in changing, you know, somebody's walking out the door and you say, don't forget your keys, don't forget your wallet, don't forget your, you know, and so instead you what we want to say is, please remember, right? So I thank you for that.
Yeah, and that's actually something important with our patients, right? Or like, maybe that's not even I'm trying to figure out different language around all these words that are very colonial in a lot of ways. And that's a whole different conversation. But for us to, you know, communicate the right way with folks that we want to guide them to a place of health and balance and harmony, you know, maybe we have to lead them with the words. We have to lead people, right, with the words that are going to go into the consciousness so people take the actions to be healthier. And that includes us too, right? Like if we want to be healthier, we have to also communicate within us with the right language. And language is weird because I speak Punjabi. My natural languages are Punjabi and Hindi, right? And it's weird because when I speak Punjabi and Hindi, I think in Punjabi and Hindi, it's very different than English. So we have to start being very particular when we talk about English. It's very powerful spelling. Oh my gosh. But we literally are, you know, English is a really interesting language, and we have to start to become a little bit more conscious of the implications of the language we use and its consequences, right? And like, you know, for example, these days, I don't say brainstorming, I say heart storming, because we're always brainstorming and always think tanking, and we're always up here and we're not using our heart. And it's a simple thing, but I brought it into spaces where there's very serious, like corporate people, and they're like, oh, wow, he's right. Like, I never thought about that, but I'm always up here. And so sometimes just even changing the language with something, we can make it up, and it can change also the dynamics of the relationship that we're in, or the relationships we have with the systems that we operate within, if that makes sense.
It does. Absolutely does. And one of the things that I have changed my wording on is hard work to heart work.
Yes.
So I mean, we're in hospice. What we do is hard, on a daily basis, and supporting those who are, crossing the Rainbow Bridge soon, and it's hard work, but changing it to heart work because it takes heart to be in this, organization and supporting all of these people as well. And then going back to in the chat. Abby says, I find myself having conversations in my head and giving myself reassurance. So going back to that thought process and what are you, thinking about in your head? April said, when voices are being negative, she tries to redirect. So that,
Ooh.
yes. And then Layla said, I try to focus on what I can control and change and how certain things may benefit me. Also, a lot of positive self-talk. Good job, Layla.
I love that. And with all those, shared, I mean, I feel it's important too for us to face the shadows too. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Carl Jung and analytical psychology. Just to give you guys some reference points, there is, Western psychology, it kind of branched off in two different directions at one point. Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud were friends, and they were actually all buddies, right? Like in the studying psychology and the implications of psychology, and they had a rift. I think it was a woman, but like, don't call me. It's, when it comes to bros, it's always a woman, right? But something happened, they rifted, and that rift ended up, like, our modern psychology and DSM, system is really based on Freud's psychology. And we kind of left the analytical psychology to the side. It's like the ugly stepchild, right? Or like the stepchild, like, oh, like we don't really care about this, right? But actually it's kind of, a lot of indigenous medicine uses analytical psychology, right? A lot of actually, like, why we like storytelling and movies and books and songs is because of analytical psychology kind of references that, and even archetypal psychology comes into that, right? And I bring all of this up with the context for us to approach the shadows within ourselves in a healthy way. So here's an invitation to all of you, right? And you don't I want to respect everybody's privacy. Plus, you guys all work together, so you definitely don't want to throw this out there for everybody. But an invitation is every day, like not right before you sleep, maybe like after work, or like at least 2 to 3 hours or more before you sleep. Start to journal your worries. Like, actually, like, put your worries on paper. Like, journal them. Like, not on your phone. Like, use your hand, because we have, our hands are very tactile, and there's a lot of a neuroplastic relationship between our hands and our brain. So it makes a difference between writing and texting, right? So write out your worries. And then let's see what happens if you do that for a week. Just writing out your worries. Because when we hold our worries within us, those shadows, they also, I mean, the dream world is a whole nother thing, right? But they go into our dream world. But then we also, when we're not like expressing them, what happens is we start playing them out. And can anybody attest to that? Like how your worries manifest?
Absolutely, Indy, for myself, and I know a lot of people on this call actually. We do a really big event called Celebration of Life, and myself and another person, along with a whole group of wonderful people. But I find myself, and even Lonnie can attest to, oh my gosh, I had a nightmare about this, that this went wrong, or this happened, or this didn't come through, I forgot this, and it is in that dream world, because we're worried about it. We want everything to go smoothly and go great, but then here we are dreaming that, nobody showed up to the event, or, so I can definitely attest to that. Friends, put it in the chat if you've had something experience like that.
I mean, I personally experienced it with like people like thinking, I remember in the past in relationships, I was imagining somebody going to cheat on me. And then like, lo and behold, not only did it happen, but I remember looking back, reflecting my work, like I projected my worries, and it actually led to that thing happening. When it wasn't going to happen, but actually my worries kind of made me do the actions to get to that point too. And relationships, that's a big one, right? Like worrying, like, that's the toughest one with people we love. And I have a mom that's like always worried about me. So, that's been cool to watch her evolve into having faith, and how that's translated into how I show up in the world, when even somebody I love is having faith in me rather than, worried about me. So by the way, before we keep flowing with this, I know I have this thing over here over my shoulder. I just gave a presentation at a huge eco event And I was pitching this idea of doing a local citizen journal, live and digital magazine newspaper for the Big Island. And I imagine maybe some of y'all will end up contributing to this and coming to some of the events that are live, or just, you know, sharing story or sharing tools for healing, right, and community health. But I share this also with the perspective of all of us understanding that, you know, a part of us building resilience is actually having visions and using our imagination of a hopeful system that we all live in. Because, you know, we can't lie to ourselves. The biggest shadow that is kind of like sitting on all of our shoulders is we're in a system that's falling apart. Like, I mean, whether you want to believe it or not, the health system's falling apart, the education system, the farming system, the water system, the energy system, I mean, like, what direction do you want me to go in? They're all falling apart. But that's also a powerful moment also for complete transformation, right? We know that happens with health, right? Sometimes people have to go to a really terrible situation with health, and they have to be presented with a terrible before they're like, okay, I need to make lifestyle changes here, right? And so we're kind of at the moment collectively. And I also encourage all of us to sit with that more often, that, you know, systemically, how can we start using our imagination so that we cultivate a balance to that 60% of worry and 60% of complaining about the system not working, people not getting paid the right way, people not getting support, healthcare workers like all of you that are doing the great work for the community. Like, how are you guys not fully supported, right? But we could build a system. But first we got to admit the shadow. Like, we have to be like, hey, this is a shadow. Now let's start having conversations and gatherings and coming together around imagination, not around complaining, but imagination. And so that's an important aspect too. So actually drop it in the chat. That's a good example. Like, we have to practice imagination, y'all. You got to remember, we haven't been practicing our imagination, most of us. We're not writers, we're not filmmakers. So we're not practicing imagination, but you can't go anywhere without imagination. Like, nowhere, we're not going to be able to get anywhere without imagination. Or our imaginations are get hijacked by TV, by people who come in and say, we're going to solve all your problems. You know, hey, look, I got an idea. Here's $1 billion idea. It's going to solve your problem. There are people like that in this community. I've met some of them. I'm like, whoa, this is dangerous. We have to start to become using our imagination so that it's a Lau Lima situation, right? It's not we're not looking for a savior or hoping for a savior. So drop in the chat. What is your imagination for healthcare for you as a healthcare provider in this community and for the healthcare system? Where can we go? Like, what's your imagination for that? Drop it in the chat, like, put it into the soup, right? Our imaginative collective soup here, because I hope that kind of all of our different perspectives, we can also sleep on that and we could dream on those things, because we're dreaming on the worries, but can we dream on the imagination, the possibility? Because that's a part of us having resilience as well. Because otherwise, you know, if we are aware of the shadow, but we're not moving towards a place of hope, I mean, that's not a train that is, you know, a sustainable one for any of us. So, or you can bring it up, hop on the mic. What is your vision? What's your imagination? Like, what could happen on this island? What could be the transformation, the butterfly from all this stuff that's happening?
Shirley, did I see you wanted to unmute yourself? Did you have a thought on there? Friends, feel free to put it in the chat. I think all of our brains are just going like, oh my gosh, we have to exercise this imagination, right? It's kind of hard. It's a little creaky. We're get it going. So Lauren put in the chat, I would hope that healthcare would focus more on health and wellness rather than just disease. Beautiful. Mar said, I imagine, let's see, visitable homes so people can age and die in place.
I love that.
Abby said to truly make the healthcare system health-centered.
Okay.
Thanks, Abby. April said, I would love to see high quality support aimed at prevention of illness and promotion of physical, mental, and spiritual health available to everyone.
Wow.
Amazing. Thanks, April.
I
Thanks,
love those.
everybody.
And even like just to show you I mean, I'm like, my third eye is like wide open. So anybody ever needs any creative or imaginative support, like, I'm overflowing with it. I don't have a lack of it. Right. But like, just so I can hop on how we could collectively practice imagination, you know, Mara shared, I imagine visitable homes so people can age and die in place. So then that's like, oh, okay, great. That's awesome. I'm going to add some imagination to that and put it on top of that. Mar, how cool would it be? Some of those visitable homes have gardens that the people living, the elders that are living in those spaces can cultivate and share their wisdom of plants and their love of plants. Because I'll share something. I learned that a senior housing here, that like some nonprofits making a lot of money. I was in Papaaloa area. They prevented the elders from planting. They actually shut them down. It was crazy. And I actually sat down with a few of the elders, and they were one of them was 96. She was 96 and she wanted a garden, And so like, I'm just adding that onto that, right? Is allowing people to like, at the end of their life, being able to do what they want to do with nature and themselves, just to throw that, idea on there based on knowledge, right? And experience. Anybody else? Okay,
Don't see anything else in the chat. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is going to be your guys' home play. Okay, so you said homework, right? Home play, right? Is practicing your imagination with each other. Maybe the next time you guys are having a meeting together, can you guys maybe take a little bit of time to talk about ideas and solutions for the problems, right? Because I get it. I was in healthcare. I totally get it. Way too much emphasis on all the problems and the symptoms and everything from a systemic point of view. Let's start to spend a little bit extra time talking about the ideas, and then we can also start leveraging our relationships to make those ideas a reality, right? That's kind of the key right there. All of us have connections to get it done. If we brought off all our connections and resources together, okay, right? But we have to talk about it. Like, we have to practice imagination with each other. We have to support each other's ideas. It can't be like, Lori, that's your idea. That was my idea. What the heck, right? It's got to be like, hey, where are we trying to go together? All our ideas together are so much more powerful. Lau Lima, right? And so I really encourage all of y'all with that and planting that seed with you. Before, I know I only got 5 minutes, okay? So here is an example. I'm going to share this with you guys. I'm hosting this panel on Sunday. There's going to be another one in Honokaa at the People's Theater, right? We're going to be, this panel is actually going to be a conversation about agriculture and regenerative agriculture. But one of the parts of the conversation is healthcare related to agriculture and rural healthcare, right? And bringing in indigenous medicine, bringing in, and Heather Kimball is going to be there. But the main thing about this is it's not a conversation where we're just going to be listening to people talk. That's not how I roll, y'all. Like, as you can tell, like, it's going to be a interactive discussion where we're going to come up with call to actions together around different subjects that we all care about. So if any of you all come, your spouses, anybody wants to come for this, it's completely free. There might be some poo-poos for folks, right, too. And really, it's about us coming together with some ideas and call to actions and strategy for how do we move forward together, especially when it comes, you guys are in the healthcare space. It'd be wonderful to get more perspective from your space, right? But then there's other perspectives that are also gonna be coming into this as well. So maybe I'll share this with you as well, so you can share this with everyone. But this is the kind of the thing, talk about resilience. This is embodied resilience, right? Because one thing for us is talk about it all the time, but it is about time that we need to start stepping in to a space where I don't have the answer, you don't have the answer, but we have the answer together in a collective intelligence, right? And so, and maybe a part of that, I'm not attached to anybody's side, so I'm just a bridge builder. I'm like, I don't care. I'm literally not on anybody's side, I'm on everybody's side. So how do we build the bridges? And the people who don't know, who want to burn bridges, we just make a space that they're not really they don't feel good. We're collaborating, And if you can't collaborate, that's cool. You can go somewhere else and not collaborate.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Indy. I did take a snapshot with my phone. So if you could email that, I would love to share that with everybody as well. We are at 4:27. Friends, if you have any quick questions for Indy, feel free to put that in the chat. Indy, I usually ask people, what's the little nuggets of wisdom or knowledge that you can give us today? But you fully just did. You said, go and try the home play. It's like at the end of a meeting, let's try our home play instead of homework. It's like, we're going to collaborate. We're going to use our imagination. So I will ask you with just 2 minutes, is there one more piece of information or knowledge or something that you want us all to walk away? If we only remember one thing, what's the one thing we should remember?
can we cultivate a relationship with the ancestors of ours that were saints? Our saintly ancestors, can we cultivate a relationship with them?
Is definitely food for thought. I'm going to be asking people, friends, if I see you in the office, I'm going to be asking you those questions too. You definitely got our brains working and our imagination going and all of our wheels turning. Thank you so, so, so much.
And I also I have one thing
yeah.
too. Also, since now we'll be more connected, and I hope you guys connect with me on LinkedIn or however, whatever feels good. Email. If anybody ever has any questions about yoga or Ayurveda or Indian medicine, Indian philosophy, because yoga nidra is a part of it too, right? The yoga of sleep. Anybody ever has questions for me, please reach out. I notice that there isn't an abundance of that perspective on this island, and I would love to be a channel. And if I don't know, I have a lot of amazing colleagues in India and all around the world that I can tune into. So please reach out. Let's start to leverage all of our the brilliant wisdom and knowledge of medicine that exists all around the world. So thank you.
Absolutely. Andy, do you mind putting your contact information in our chat box? So if anybody wants to reach out, they just have quick access to that. I so appreciate it. I do have your email. If you don't mind, I can share that too. Oh, perfect. There it all is.
Please, and then
Awesome.
I'll share the LinkedIn because I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as
Okay.
well. So you guys want to creep on me if anybody wants to spy out, see what's going on, what is this guy up to, you can see what I'm up to.
That is so awesome. Indy, thank you so, so much. We're at 4:30 exact. Thank you. It's been so amazing just to hear you and talk about all these things on our Wellness Wednesday. Let's see. Abby in the chat said, thank you so much for your time and knowledge. That was wonderful. So definitely positive vibes all around. I hope you have a good evening. Friends, I hope you have a great evening. Thanks for joining Wellness Wednesday. Ahoy ho.
And hold on, you got to save the chat. Make sure to save
Oh,
the
yes,
chat.
I will. I'm sorry.
Let's see if these ideas come to fruition. Like, I'm curious, like in a year from now or whatever, that'd be cool,
That is so great. Okay, friends, I'm going to take a moment and I'm just going to screenshot all of this and we'll come back to it as well. Oh, this is so awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, there's like a whole bunch of thanks in the chat. This is amazing.
Whoa, look who's here.
Oh,
She came out of
hey
nowhere.
Hello again. How are you doing?
Good. How is
Oh,
everyone?
we are so good. Everyone was loving Indy. So, friends, Indy was actually the co-host last Wellness Wednesday.
De facto
Yeah,
co-host.
yeah. So awesome. We are so thankful to have you both. I'm so glad you showed, but Indy, I did take a screenshot of all of the chat. So I'm going to see if all of these come to fruition. So thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy your evening and we'll definitely reconnect again.
Likewise. Mahalo, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Take care, please. Take care of yourselves and sending love to your family and all of your patients, all of the people you serve in the community. Sending blessings to everybody.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha.